Coming up, she's here to save the world. Join us as we dissect the final trailer for Supergirl. Stay tuned.
Hey, I was just touching base to see when you think you might be coming back. You know, I'm just worried that you're not going to find your stride here if you keep going off-world all the time, Kara. I'm worried you're not going to find your people.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, Clark. I have no people.
Welcome to the Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. And we are your hosts, Arturo Padilla, along with Mr. Nick Valdez. Before we get started, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up, and that bell. That way you know when all these videos are dropping. Tex, how you doing today, dude? What's up?
Howdy, everybody. Howdy, Arturo. Supergirl. Let's get into it. This is the first major DC Studios film that won't be directed by James Gunn. So, that's also going to be an interesting thing. This is why there's a lot kind of riding on it, and it's an expansion of the Superman mythos with Supergirl and Kara Zor-El after we saw her in that first film. And now she's getting this whole other adventure, her origin story, it seems like, especially with this newest trailer. It's funny you say final, because I think you're right, because I don't remember if it was labeled as such, but it's kind of got the full kit and caboodle when you look at it, right? It's
Yes.
We've talked about the teaser before. If you go dig in our archives of coming attractions pieces, you'll find that our reactions to that first Supergirl teaser, where it was more kind of style and flair and kind of giving you the vibe, and it kind of set up, I mean, for lack of a better comparison, it's the James Gunn tone, right? Of okay, this is felt very Marvel-y, and that's also something here in Supergirl, but also I don't know if that's a bad thing or not yet. It's interesting because it's interesting we make that James Gunn comparison, because he is not directing, but he is kind of associated with this film, despite the fact that his hands are off of it pretty much. It's a script not written by him. It's directed by Craig Gillespie, who's done Cruella, I, Tanya, Lars and the Real Girl. He's done a lot of bangers in terms of it. So Supergirl, for all intents and purposes, is in good hands. So Arturo, I kind of want to lead with you here. What'd you think? How are you feeling with this trailer so far?
You know what, man? I'm a little mixed, to be honest with you. The first time we spoke about Supergirl, we saw a little teaser of it. The visual looked all on point. It looked good. So it got me engaged visually. I saw this one. I'm a little mixed over here. As you mentioned earlier, it does have that Marvel-esque kind of tone to it going on. Right. But like you said, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm associating Marvel with it because it just, the trailer even is kind of built like a Marvel trailer even. But I don't know what to expect here.
Right.
I know James Gunn is not involved, but he is the architect of this DC cinematic universe. So I'm curious to see how much we get that ties back to that James Gunn stuff, right? Is it just gonna be are we only gonna see Superman, right? In the trailer, we see Superman talking to Kara, be like, hey, it's time for you to come home. I'm worried about you, blah, 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 whatever. We see a nice little monologue with Coring Sweat as Superman in the trailer. Is that gonna be the extent of his visit in this movie? Are we gonna have more? Are we gonna be tying to events that happened in Metropolis like Peacemaker did?
Right.
I'm curious to see the extent. I'm just a little hesitant, probably because, like you mentioned earlier, Tex, this is the James Gunn-less movie, right? So this is the trial, right? The test run to see how this is all going to pan out. So I am a little hesitant, but I am also very excited. We do get to see some very visually pleasing things in this trailer. Kara Zor-El / Supergirl looks great. We get to see Momoa as Lobo. He's a little funky. He looks great. His voice is a little weird. He does have that raspy a Lobo thing, but I
Right.
have to get used to his
Right.
voice though.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, right? Because like funny enough, a little peek under the sheet here, like you and I had an offline conversation the other day about Jason Momoa in terms of like what we've seen him in and the kind of roles he's taken on recently, and that they've all kind of been Momoa in different flavors, right? Like
Yes.
he's like even like I honestly since Aquaman, right? Like since Zack Snyder brought him on as
Yeah.
Aquaman, he kind of had that bro vibe and kind of leaned into that, and because of that like he basically like reinvented his career, because before that like his take on what was it, Hercules, I think he
Conan.
did what, there we go, it was
It was
Conan, it
Conan.
was
That almost
the
buried him completely because that was not received very well. I, for one, thought he did a decent job, but, the movie around him was just terrible, but him
yeah,
as Conan, I thought was fine, but like you mentioned, Tex, he didn't do much after Conan until he got
yeah.
this revival, thanks to Aquaman and James Wan and DC, funny enough, right?
Yeah, and because of that, like he started taking on these same kind of roles that, yes, we've seen him in like Dune and stuff, and he gets to be like, he gets to really put his foot in it and kind of do something else. But a lot of the time, and also you can't blame him, right? It's like if they're offering you to just have a good time on screen and just be yourself and kind of like just do you and get paid millions of dollars for it, I would also do it. So
Yeah, you
like,
gotta
but
take
so like because of this we're with Lobo, it's kind of a mix of the two, right? Where it's like it's the usual Moa bro vibe that he's giving off, but like he's also putting on a character. And I think you're right, Arturo, we're gonna have to get used to that voice, to this character that Momoa is playing, and that like but he's so closely tied to the Momoa we already see on screen before, that it's like I think that's where the disconnect is coming from. Like but also like we only get to see like hear him a little bit in it, right? And
yeah,
that's the thing
yeah.
too. Like it is like and on that said, it's like how big of a role is he going to play in the movie, right? Like is he like it is the fight that we see in the trailer where they're kind of like on the ship and she's in the full Supergirl getup and all that, like is that like the third act, right? Like, is he teaming up with her in the third act and just taking down a big battleship together with her,
Yeah.
or is that like something that happens in the middle of the movie and it leads to something else and he kind of goes off on his own after that, or you know what I mean? Like how it's a comic book story, right? So like how comic booky is going to get in bringing in other characters like that, right? And
Yeah,
that's
well,
uh,
listen, speaking of other characters, one thing that did catch my attention in this trailer, though, was the Dome City, right?
right.
Kandor. We see in the trailer that her city looks like it's getting engulfed in some kind of shield or ray or something. And in the comic books, the person responsible for that is Brainiac. So if
Interesting.
this leads to us getting Brainiac, even in like a post-credit scene where we see his ship or something out in the distance in the cosmos. I think we're on the right track, right? Because Man
Yeah,
of
that's true.
Tomorrow comes out in 2027, right?
Yeah.
Or is it 2028?
I
27, right?
I I believe it's 2027. Like
Oh,
I don't think
perfect.
we're gonna have to wait too long for that.
Awesome.
And
So even
yeah,
better. So Man of
yeah,
Tomorrow comes out next year, and we know that Brainiac has already been cast in that movie, right?
yeah,
And we know that Lex and Superman are gonna have to work together to some capacity. So I'm curious to see what we get here in Supergirl
right.
that will further establish this universe as being connected. I
Yeah,
do want to see a proper Kara Zor-El origin. So I don't want them to kind of get ahead of themselves um, and go straight for that jugular, with Brainiac.
yeah,
First, establish Supergirl first. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I do think that's what the movie's greater purpose is going to be, right? It seems like we're gonna see her current day self, but then also because we're seeing like a much younger version of Crypto, this really does seem like one of her like early adventures, right? This might be because because in Superman we've gotten to Superman who's 3 years in already,
Yeah.
so so this might be like in her debut, and maybe Superman's only like a year in, right? Like maybe this is before Superman, and like we're gonna see a little of that timeline. And And that's the thing too. Like, you bring up an interesting thing with like the connecting tissue overall too, because it's like, how much are these going to connect, right? Like, it's like, are they going to be, are they going to be necessary, right? Like, if for whatever reason you and I decided to skip Supergirl, would we be able to go into Man and Tomorrow just fine, right? And
Great
it's the same
question.
case for like the show Lanterns, where please check out our Lanterns episode. We did a conversation about that recent teaser. And with Lanterns, it's already been confirmed that Aaron Pierre is going to show up as John Stewart in Man of Tomorrow. So, like, is it going to be a thing where, like, if we don't watch Lanterns, are we just going to, like, is it going to be fine? Right.
Yeah.
And this is the
Are
thing,
we
like,
doing the Marvel thing all over again, right?
yes, is
Where we
it,
have to see everything in order to understand
yes,
everything that's coming
yes,
ahead. That's a great point, dude. That's a very good point because even though the studios and Gunn might say that's not the case. Like, you don't have to watch Creature Commandos in order to watch Peacemaker, but then you fully put information from that show into
yeah,
Peacemaker and into your other properties. So you kind of have to follow along a little bit.
yeah.
Because there's it, unless you're recapping stuff in front of the movies, unless there's like, a bunch of exposition being written into the future movies about these characters. But yeah, dude, that's a great point. I think honestly, it is going to a point where we might have to follow these adventures,
I
if these
mean,
characters are made worthwhile. I think we're gonna follow them regardless if they're good, right?
right. And that's a lot, like, that's kind of what they do with comics, right? Like, in comics, you can drop characters in wholesale and just expect the reader to just kind of accept it, right? Like, they don't need like a reintroduction. Or sometimes you get a little text bubble that says, for more information on what they did in this panel or whatever, read Daredevil issue 1 or something,
Yeah.
right? And like, but with these movies, that's not as like doable, because with live action people in live action productions and with real people and real human actors, people get attached to characters, right? And it's like, you can't, you know, all of a sudden, like, imagine you're watching like Supergirl. Imagine you watch Supergirl and then, like, you know, she or you miss Supergirl and she shows up in Man of Tomorrow and she's got like a new suit or something, and you'll be like, well, what happened to her,
What
right? Like,
happened
it's,
here? Yeah.
yeah. And that's, you can do that in comics, and no, like, only those who follow the arcs would care. But like, if you're looking at a box and you pick up one issue from one arc and then one issue from another, you can assume they don't connect because that's whatever. But you can't do that with movies, you can't do that with TV, with real people, because you look at all the people who are already saying, like, oh, Robert Pattinson is Batman, and then you're trying to introduce another Batman that we're gonna
Yeah.
have to care
Great
about,
point.
right? It doesn't work that way. Like, it's like, if you watch these characters, like, if you see David Cornsweet as Superman in this, you're automatically going to be like, okay, it's the same Superman, right? You're
Yes.
like, you're not going to look at this Superman and be like, okay, well, this Superman's the Superman of Supergirl, not of the Superman that's in Superman Man of Tomorrow, right? It's just,
Yes.
you
Yes.
can't, yeah. Like, I hope I laid that
Yeah.
out cleanly enough,
No,
but it's like,
that's
yeah,
a great point too, especially because, as you mentioned, um, DC does have that issue going on right now with their
yeah,
properties, right? With Batman, in particular. So that is a great point. Um, Again, we're gonna have to just wait and see, right? Because we don't
yeah,
know to what extent we're gonna get any other characters in Supergirl besides what we've already seen in the trailers. And on top of that, you mentioned Lanterns as well. Is Lanterns gonna have something in there that's gonna tie into Metropolis? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because that is further out in the future. As you mentioned, the Supergirl movie does take place in the past, as we know this because of the age of crypto, which is a very smart thing to do because that's
mhm,
a good way to know timeline. So I was like, okay, cool. Crypto's still kind of like a puppy here in comparison to what we saw in the Superman movie. And um I think by having this movie be successful, Tex, I think James Gunn is gonna prove a lot of people wrong. As we mentioned before in
Yeah.
previous conversations about Gunn and DC, that Gunn has that experience with working with this, you know, the big machine that is Marvel and how they make things. So I definitely think he is trying to prevent any of the same missteps or mistakes that was done on Marvel's part on the way to Endgame, you know?
Yeah.
So I think this movie, man, is gonna say a lot about this DC universe, especially how it works without Gunn. Because if it doesn't work, you know,
Yeah.
and we take light of that and we understand like, wait a minute, okay, we understand Craig Gillespie's a good director, has made stuff before, but the tone's all different. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the vibe's all different. Everything doesn't work the same in terms of how it would
Oh
work in
man.
the Gunn universe. So, and
That's
Gunn
so
having his
true.
hand in a lot of those properties already, Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, Superman, we know and we love that vibe that he has brought into this DC universe. So now it's up to the other filmmakers and artists to kind of not copy per se, but just kind of get inspired by the vibe
Yeah,
and try
because
their best to fit in, you know?
yeah, it has to fit because you're
Yes,
right. Like if it's too different, it's automatically an Elseworlds thing, right? Like
exactly.
you have the new Clayface thing in the works, and it's like that's just going to be its own thing because it's just so different. And that's what's happening with the Batman right now. It's so different that it's going to be like its entirely own thing, right?
Mhm.
So these movies, ooh, that's so true. Like, how limited are they going to be in terms of what they can do, right? Because
Yes.
like lanterns also kind of looks like a grounded tone, but then eventually someone's got to put on a green suit and fly around,
Someone's
right?
gonna have to smash some shit with a green ring, dude. Absolutely. You
Yeah,
know?
like yeah, and so like that's a very good point where it's it's this is the same universe with Guy Gardner in it, right? And with Supergirl, you look at Supergirl and you're like, this is a universe with Lobo in it, and this is a universe with that's also balancing out with like a new villain that I don't know who it is, but whatever, right?
Some
Like it's
guy
just like
with dots
yeah,
on his face.
he's just the guy that she needs to beat for the thing, right? Like it's just whatever. He's fulfilling mercenary, poisons crypto, and you're gonna give you the big need to get you through the movie, right? The big emotional moments. So like, yeah, but other than that, this all still has to fit within that wider scope of the universe. Like it just, you know, it has to feasibly connect, right? Like you have to remember that all these things exist within the same place. And
Mhm.
comics are able to pull that off because it's easier to do that with drawings like
Yeah.
that. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it's easier to do that with like illustrations than with real
Yes.
actors. Because if you see a real actor playing a character, you're going to assume that same character is the same character that they were in whatever other project they were in, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like just to bring it up Marvel real quick, just to kind of wrap things up here and move along. I mean, look what happened with Daredevil, right? They tried to reboot it, but then people saw it and they were like, "Oh, well, is it like the Netflix show? Is it not? Like it's the same people, it's the same
Yeah.
characters, right?" And but you can't see, and that's the thing, you can't. People are smarter than that. They're not just going to take so it all has to fit, it all has to work, and
Yeah, absolutely. And Tex,
this is the
we also
test.
brought this up as well during our lanterns conversation, right? As you mentioned, Guy Gardner already exists here on this earth, right?
Yeah,
And us as comic book nerds and fans of Green Lantern, they know, there's only one Green Lantern per sector. So if you have Hal Jordan here, right?
yeah,
And you have John Stewart here. Um, where are we here in the timeline? Why is Guy Gardner hanging out here on Earth?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's very
it's it's
true.
it's another question that ties back to the bigger picture as to where are we now? We do have TV shows, animated shows, movies now. So we have to kind of get on the same page here. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think this movie Supergirl and the TV show Lanterns, I think both of these properties are gonna dictate how DC is gonna look going forward, right?
Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier, Superman comes out in 2027, so everything has to be nice and tight. T's crossed, and I's dotted in order for us to, land the ship nice and smoothly in 2027 when it comes to Man of Tomorrow. So what happens throughout this year is gonna be heavily dictated on Lanterns and on Supergirl. So we're gonna have quite a bit to talk about this summer, folks. Supergirl comes out in June. Please drop a comment below and let us know how you feel about the trailer. Let us know how you feel about Lanterns, about it all, about the whole DC shebang. And thank you so much for listening, folks. This has been The Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. And we are your hosts, Arturo Padilla, along with Mr. Nick Valdez. A big shout out goes to you guys out there for listening and for watching. We have all these episodes on the YouTube archive, as well as on all the podcast streams, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere you get them. We are there. Do not forget to give us some stars and some reviews. We would highly appreciate it. Last but not least, a big shout out goes to Mr. Delvirus for all the artwork you've seen in front of you throughout the years. And always remember, folks, it is a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.